Hey, it is day one of official quarantine in Washington State, so I thought I'd show you guys a nice meal that I'm making entirely with things from my pantry. So you might have a lot of these things in your pantry, and it's a really simple meal, but it's gonna taste really good. So what you see here is some rice, some ghee. It is shelf stable because it is clarified butter. I don't know how many months it really is good still, just kept in your pantry. We've only had this for a month, and it usually doesn't last that long. We use it up pretty quickly because we love Indian food. And then I just have a bunch of spices. I'm doing sort of an Indian themed rice, and so I'm doing black pepper, and I've got some cumin, and this says curry powder, but I'm reusing the bottle. It had curry powder in it years ago. Now it's my turmeric bottle. I buy turmeric in bulk and then I keep it in here. Some salt, and this is coriander that I got at an Indian grocery store, so it was really cheap. And some chili powder. So I'm starting with 2 tablespoons of ghee on medium heat in a little pot that I'm going to cook the actual rice in as well. You do not want to skimp on the fat because it's what's going to make this dish taste really good. And fat is important for a balanced diet, actually. Fun fact. Anyway, if you don't have ghee, you can use butter, you can use margarine, you can use vegetable oil, you can use rendered, animal drippings from when you cooked chicken or something. Any fat that you want to use that you think would go well with these spices that you chose. I pre-measured all of my spices just so I will not be scrambling to add them all one at a time during the cooking process, because you're going to want to add these quickly and move fast after you add the spices. But I got about a quarter teaspoon of chili powder, half teaspoon of coriander, half teaspoon of cumin, half teaspoon to a whole teaspoon of turmeric, half teaspoon to a whole teaspoon of black pepper, and a teaspoon of salt. So when the ghee melts and is nice and warm, it's barely starting to shimmer a little bit and I'm getting impatient, so I'm pouring in my rice. What we're doing here is we're toasting it before we are adding the water. And I already have a cup and a half of water on standby. Again, just so that I can move quickly. Now it's starting to sizzle. And you can make a bigger batch of this if you want, obviously. I'm really just making it for myself. My husband might have some of it. Oh, incidentally, in the last video that I uploaded, it got a ton of views, and I feel bad because I misspoke and didn't even catch it in post, but when I was talking about the gelatin in our pantry, I said that it was my husband's brother's wife's when she was still living with us 10 years ago. Several years. This was actually my husband's wife's when she was still living with me, God, that was over 10 years ago. I meant to say my brother's wife when she was living with us, as in me and my brother 10 years ago. So my husband was not married before me. I didn't even know him 10 years ago. Oops. I think part of it is I'm not even used to calling him my husband yet. It's because we got married half a year ago, so kind of weird. I should just call him Joshua. It's a lot easier. Anyway. After it's been going for a bit, I'm going to add the spices. And the toasting of the rice helps give it a nice flavor, but it also helps give it a nice texture. It makes the grains separate a bit more. And then it brings out these nutty flavors in the rice, which is really cool. Notice I use really cheap generic long grain white rice. I could have used basmati and that actually would have been better, but I don't know. I just reached for the generic. And by toasting these spices, we're bringing out different flavors in them than what we would have brought out if we just added them to the water plain. So you don't want to cook them for too long like this because they can burn, and make sure you keep stirring this mixture because the rice could burn. I don't know how well you can see it, but some of the grains of rice are very opaque and white. Those are the ones that have been toasted a bit more. The ones that are more translucent looking are not really as toasted. So you want at least half of the grains in here to have that opaque look to them. You're not necessarily looking for brown. Number one, you can't really see that they're brown because the spices are brown. That's really my only point. I don't know why I said number one. Anyway, I'm going to add the water now. I have 1.5 cups of water. If you have broth, yeah, sizzle, sizzle. If you have broth, of course, you could use broth. but water is just fine. That's another reason why adding spices is really nice. And cook it for about 20 minutes or until it's done. And 20 minutes later, as you can see, some of the spices sort of congregated to the top, that you can fluff it a bit, and it is done. To give it some added nutrition and some nice sweet pops of flavor, and to complete the protein from the rice a little bit, I've got some frozen peas. And behold its spicy, ricey goodness. It's really good. I kid you not, between the ghee and the toasting of the rice and spices, it tastes like it has meat in it.